Right, so this is my Titans Season 4, Episode 8 review. And oh boy, this was really, really weird. So let's see if I can keep this thing straight. Okay, so it starts off with a church service. Well, actually, no. It starts off with Megan, I believe is her name, bringing food to Rachel, and Rachel is missing. So she runs off, and we see Rachel. At first, I wasn't sure if she was tied up or not, because she seemed like she was meditating. She seemed, really chill about the whole thing. Not trying to get out because, well, she doesn't have her power. And at first, I wasn't sure where she was. But then we see the church. And they're having their, I assume, Sunday service. And Mother Mayhem is talking about how she found Call's Folly, and how this was the best thing that happened to her, and that and she brings in Sebastian, and everyone's happy that Brother Blood is back, and that they're going to bring back Trigon, and everyone's super stoked. Which, what? So, Sebastian seemed a little uneasy about, it seemed like he was being uneasy when Mother Mayhem said that they had to kill Rachel. And at the time, I didn't realize that they had her. That's where she was. But, so Sebastian decides that it looked like they had the horn this whole time. So I was very confused about we have to find Sebastian before he gets the horn thing, because I thought it was pretty obvious that they had the horn, but okay. So Sebastian goes to kill his sister. And his mother tries to dissuade him, saying, let them deal with her. And he's insistent. And I thought at first that it was more of that he doesn't actually want to kill her, that, maybe he's going to help her escape, or that Mother Mayhem didn't want him to try and kill her because he thought that she would get into his head, and not what it turned out to be, that every wound he makes on her, he inflicts upon himself, which Rachel knew was going to happen. And I just think it's cool that you can find Rachel by just looking for the flock of ravens around. But, so she basically tells him, Mother Mayhem is lying to you. If you bring back Trigon, you're going to be a nobody again, because, Trigon doesn't care about you. He just cares about himself, which is true. Now, Rachel is saying that Mother Mayhem didn't bother to tell him that this would happen if he tried to kill her, but I'm not completely convinced she knew that part. I still think that she was worried that she would try to talk him out of it. So Sebastian leaves the church, and the sheriff sees him leave the church, and and Mother Mayhem said that he can't kill her, but you can. So again, I don't know if she knows about the if he wounds her, she wounds him. Um which is like Corsican brothers on acid, but okay. Or if she honestly was worried that it was just a matter of she can talk him out of it. Who knows what she knows? So, as this is going on, Corey and Dick wake up in bed and they're wearing matching pajamas, which I don't know what's more mortifying, the fact that they were wearing the matching pajamas or that they were matching, or that, you know, which one it was. Because Corey's like, who the hell put this on me? Which I can't blame her because, there's this thing about an unconscious woman being stripped naked. Yeah. But same thing happened to Dick. And Corey is still asking what's going on, even though it's like, I have no idea. So maybe they were able to find Corey because of the drug. And I guess that's how they managed to find Rachel in the barn, which I'm surprised they didn't do anything to Megan and her father, because it's their barn, and she was, well, I guess at this point she was no longer tied up, so I guess they could have, explained it away, saying that she snuck in or something, because no consequences to Megan. And so they go downstairs and discover that they live there. This is their house. I honestly thought, because past couple seasons they showed Dick and Corey with this little girl, that I really thought that not only were they living there and they had a life there as Ted and Carol, but that they would have that little girl as well. But no little girl. And so they're looking around trying to figure out what's going on. So they go to the diner and they see Megan and they ask her what's going on. And Megan just brushes them off, but then tells them to look at pay attention to the specials. So they read and they find out that she knows something about Rachel. They go out, not before the music is starting to affect them. And they go to the back to talk to Megan, and of course the father is there. And because the father apparently has no idea what's happening, or they don't trust them or something, he points his shotgun at Dick, which is the worst thing he possibly could have done, because Dick made easy work of this guy. Now, it turns out that Megan is deaf. And because she wasn't being affected by whatever was happening, because you have to actually hear the music, her father decided to make himself deaf. Now, we don't know how he managed to do that, but he did that. Now, first off, let me just say that there are many occasions since we've known them that I question their death thing. First off, they talk normally. I mean, they don't shout, they don't slur their speech, nothing. It's just, if you didn't know that they were deaf, you wouldn't know, because there was absolutely nothing about them that screams, we're deaf. And so that's how they survive this situation. Now we still don't know, and we never do find out this episode, how they managed to end up in Call's Folly to begin with. So, they tell them, what's happening, and how they got around it. And so Dick comes up with this idea, and so he buys a couple of recorders. Of course, one's blue and one's pink. And he tells Corey about, what Bruce did. And she goes completely psycho about this idea. And I'm just like, really? But Bruce Wayne knows nothing about psychology. What is wrong with you? Oh my God. She just really went off the rails about Bruce Wayne. It was just bizarre. And you could see Dick was so wounded at the thought that, this is still his dad and it's a good idea. And it turned out it worked, sort of. So, so they record their messages. And the way it was edited, it's like almost immediately they record the message, and almost immediately Corey loses her memories. It's like she put her memories in a recorder, and I don't know, because she's a Tamaran or what, but it's like her memories were replaced with these memories of Carol. It was the most bizarre thing ever. And so Dick is blaming himself for this, which I don't know why. I mean, you're still fine. You haven't been affected by this, so unless you're realizing that because she's an alien, this sort of thing affects her differently, I don't know. But Dick notices the flock of ravens. And so he knows where Rachel is, because that's her calling card. So he goes to the church, and he makes up some bullshit story for Carol, because for some reason she was coming with him. She didn't want him to leave her, which, okay, I wasn't sure if she meant physically or that they were going to get a divorce or something. I wasn't sure, but apparently Dick interpreted it as physically. So he's with her. So he goes into the church, and then we get the Dick that I was expecting last episode, and he kicks the entire sheriff's department's ass. So that was fun. And yeah, I was just enjoying that way too much. And two of the deputies are going to kill Rachel. And Rachel talks them out of it. Well, she talks one out of it, and then they end up shooting each other, because that was just weird. It's like, are we sure she doesn't have her powers? Because the way that happened, and the way the one deputy pointed his gun at the other, was just such an about face. It was so weird. Just like with Corey turning into Carol. Just happened so suddenly. So the one deputy that's left living is about to shoot Rachel, and then Dick comes and takes care of him. Cleans his clock. So And Rachel's just like, well, it took you long enough to get here. And I'm just like, really? Okay. So she asks about Corey, and he goes, it's a long story. But it wasn't that long that that by the time they got out of the church, he told her that Corey isn't herself. She's like, what are you talking about? So he explains to her, sort of what's happening. Not that she's Carol, but just this idea that that they have to stop the music. Now, I can see why Dick hasn't succumbed to it, because he's better prepared trying to keep it at bay. But why isn't Rachel? I still don't understand why Rachel's not succumbing to this. And because, she was stuck in the church. She was meditating, so maybe she was blocking the music out or something. I don't know. It was never explained how she wasn't succumbing to it. So they drive off, and they meet up with Megan and the father, and he says, and he asks him, where is the music coming from? And he's like, you do not want to go to the radio station. Nobody ever comes back from there. So before I continue on with that, let's back up to the Lovebirds, Tim and Bernard. So the episode actually started with Bernard coming in and telling Tim that he figured out where Corey and Dick and Rachel are. And they figured out that the town is called Call's Folly, and that he's traced Starfire's signature. And he brought him avocado toast. Okay. And it was so sweet, which is why what happens later made Bernard such a dick. Anyway, so they drive off, and they find this building. They go into this building, and it turns out it's a radio station. And Tim then hears something. They go into the back, and there's this man just sitting there and listening to a radio, listening to the boombox, and just sitting there. Which makes you wonder, how long were Megan and her father stuck in there? Because he's just sitting there. And he explains that he's waiting for his father and his sister, which is, of course, Megan and her father. And Tim wants to stay with William and try to figure out how to get them out, because they have this feeling. And Bernard is mocking Tim for that, because he goes, I don't have feelings, I have data. And I'm just like, okay, you claim to have feelings for Tim because, you kind of slept with him. And now you're saying you don't have feelings? Now, I get what he's trying to say here. But the way he said it, you could see Tim's heart just drop when he tells him, I don't have feelings. I know what you're trying to say, but, could you pick a worse way to say that? It's one thing to say, I don't trust my gut, I trust data. But to say, I don't have feelings, yeah, well, then how do you explain, what's going on between you and Tim? What do you call that? So he leaves, and it seemed like it wasn't that long before he comes back. And he decides to use his electric car as a battery to power up the radio station, and he figures out that they're in a different dimension, that they're in the same place, but in a different dimension. So as they're trying to figure stuff out, and William is playing a song in hopes that Megan and her father hear it, which her father somehow does, but he says, I hear it in my head and I know it's William. So, which makes me wonder if that means that when he got out, that he got his hearing back. It's just so weird and so many unanswered questions. And we're probably never going to hear from these people again, so we're not going to get an answer to this. So, they just go walking off. And based on what happens at the end, they were walking towards the radio station. Even though both Megan's like, didn't you tell them what happens? He goes, yeah. So they get to the radio station. Carol's not thrilled to be there. And Dick is almost going to succumb. And Rachel snaps him out of it. And they go into the radio station. And of course, they come across a couple of security guards. Right before then, Dick succumbs. So, of course, Dick would have taken care of these two guys. I mean, he's taken on much more than that. But he's dead now. So, Rachel somehow manages to get through to him because I guess, like Corey figured out that it's not painful memories that helped her. So she brought up memories of how they met. And so he makes short work of the security guards. He goes in, and there's a guy who's tied up. And Dick, because he's so intelligent, tries to get the guy to, number one, turn it off. And number two, he's trying to talk to him like he's the one who's intentionally doing this. And even after Rachel points out that this radio station is being run by blood, which is a lovely thought, and he's still acting like this guy is part of this. I mean, can you not see he's tied up? It's not like he did it himself. And he was warned that anybody who comes to the radio station never comes back. This is probably why they drain them dry of blood. Now, how they managed to get that much blood out of one person, I'm not going to even attempt to go into that. So Dick basically drains the station dry. And in the process, everything starts exploding in front of Tim and Bernard and William, and they're like, what the hell is happening? So they get the hell out while the radio station explodes. And then you see Megan and her father come out, and William is thrilled to see his parents. Thrilled to see his dad and his sister. And then we see Rachel coming out of the radio station. And they're like, okay, where's Dick and Corey? I don't know. Dick had gone to check on Corey. Corey, in the meantime, was listening to Dick's memories. Not hers, but Dick's. And of course, she just happened to listen to the part where they were together for the first time. And that's what got her back to being Corey. And what I loved first off is that her recorder was blue and his was pink. Now, I don't know if Dick intended it to be vice versa or not, but I just loved that they switched it rather than the usual boys are blue and girls are pink. And so the sheriff went up to Dick and said, everything could have been beautiful. And he was about to, I guess, shoot Dick, and Corey just slugged him. So Corey's back. So now, my question is, would she have returned back to normal without the recorder? Because the radio station was demolished. Call's Folly was, no longer in that other dimension. So I wonder if she would have turned back to normal regardless. But anyway, so everyone's back together, everyone's happy, but like I said, we don't know if William and Megan's dad's hearing loss is now permanent because he made himself deaf while in that dimension. So I wonder if he got his hearing back or what. And now the question is, where's Gar and where's Connor? So then we go to Metropolis. And we see Sebastian sitting there by himself. And a waitress brings him a drink. And he said that, that someone had brought it to him. He looks, and it's Connor. Ugh. I am so disappointed. Unless he's playing a con game on Sebastian, which is always possible. Lex likes to play three-dimensional chess. So maybe he's going to be playing Sebastian. But yeah, I was very disappointed to see that Connor had a proposition for him. And that's how it ends. So, yeah, I like I said, I really hope that he's just playing Sebastian and that he's not actually going to join this cult, since it was because of this cult that his dad lost his life. Because even his dad is like, oh, hell no. So, I'm hoping that that's what ends up happening. How long till we find out? Don't know. But I really hope that that's the case. So we still have to know about Gar. So, and like I said, I'm really curious of all those people who were avid supporters of the Church of Blood, how many of them, came to their senses. Obviously, the sheriff did not. So, are these followers of Brother Blood and Mother Mayhem from before they even went into this dimension? Or how did this happen? And I'd like to know how Megan and her father got in there, because it sounds like, and because there were a bunch of pictures that William was looking at, it sounds like that there were a bunch of people who were basically kidnapped. So, yeah, I would love to know how they got in there since apparently it took someone like Rachel being in the RV with them for them to even get into Call's Folly. Which then even Rachel, Corey and Dick at the end were like, at the beginning were like, where's the RV? Where you parked it in the outskirts? Do we not remember? But maybe that was already them starting to fall victim to the curse. I don't know. Anyway, I think I've covered everything I wanted to this episode. It's nice to see that even without Rachel's powers, just how badass she is. I mean, first off, ravens are still flying over her, so I wonder how much of her not having her powers there was. But, especially since Brother Blood simply did have his powers, so I have no idea how this works. But, yeah. Yeah, I think I've got everything with this covered, and I will see you guys next time.